Hey, welcome to another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset podcast powered by the Moran College of Entrepreneurship. I am Mark McNees, your host. And in studio today, we have Gregory Cohen, who is the founder and CEO of Lofty Pursuits and all sorts of other fun things that we're going to be talking about. How you doing, Greg? And thanks for coming in today.
I'm doing great, but I should correct you. On my tax returns, my official title is Grand Poobah.
Grand Poobah, okay.
It worked for the head of the lodge for the Flintstones.
That's right.
I've never had the IRS, I've been using this for almost 30 years, complain.
There you go. Who was the mystical creature in the Flintstones?
I'm thinking Mixoplex from Superman. I don't remember. I remember
he was like blue.
Gizmo, Cosmo,
something like that. Yeah, that was such an odd addition into the Flintstones to have some weird.
It was the same time that My Favorite Martian was on and things like that. I imagine it was the mid-'70s. There was a lot of acid in that writer's room.
I'm sure the blue little guy did come from acid. Very interesting. So, Greg, do appreciate you making your way in here to our studio, and excited to hear just about your entrepreneurial journey. And we'll definitely get into like how you started Lofty Pursuits, which has been featured on, I believe, CNN and all sorts of big things.
Pretty good at getting national press.
All right, that's fantastic, and I'd love to learn more about that. So we have a lot of entrepreneurship students who watch and listen to this podcast. We also have a lot of small business people. So we'll be talking about just your wisdom and your journey, anything that you want to share. But before we jump into that, I'd love to hear just about where you're from, what your upbringing was, your entrepreneurial influences, things like that.
I grew up in Brooklyn. I was born in Greenwich Village, and my parents moved to Brooklyn before I remember it. I went through the public school systems there, and I was the kid who would go look forward to snow days because I could go around and shovel people's walks and get paid for it. I would go around and rake leaves. I would sell greeting cards out of the back of comic books from the Olympia Card Company.
Oh, wow.
I was the person who did all of that, and eventually I saw an article in a magazine called World, which I believe was a National Geographic's children's magazine at the time, of this kid who baked bread and sold it to his neighbors, and I liked baking bread.
Okay.
So I baked bread, and my mother seeded me for the first batch, but then taught me profit loss and how to keep the money to pay for the next bit of ingredients. I had my shelf with my ingredients on it. I started getting pan loaves for Christmas, pan trays, still have many of them, and I sold bread. I had the T-shirt which I made up with paint that said, "I sell bread for dough." And this was in elementary school. So what it really boils down to is when I started my own small business, the only person who was surprised who knew me was me.
Okay.
Everyone else got, of course you're going this way.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I got to ask, I'm a Beastie Boys fan, and you're from Brooklyn, and you're probably around their age, our age. Any chance that you ran across any of the three guys?
Interestingly, you're the first person to ask me this specifically, but yes, I went to high school with Adam Yorch. He used to beat me up.
Oh,
I'm not a big fan of the man. I know he's passed on.
Yeah,
he used to have this alabaster eyeball and a leather keychain that he bought in the village, and he would make freshmen. He was a couple of years older than me. Bow down to the eye.
Really?
Yeah. And when he passed away, I didn't like his music for some reason, because I'll tell you that story. So a friend of mine down the block from me had a birthday party and hired the local punk band.
Okay, which was the Beastie Boys. Okay.
And these three white Jewish guys came and did hip-hop instead. She was so pissed.
Okay.
And I realized after reading the story in his eulogies that I was at the first Beastie Boy concert.
How about that?
And it was 3 or 4 doors down from my house in Brooklyn. So yes, I have a connection with that. He also was an engineer for a friend of mine named Sky King, who is a musician, a rapper. She wrote a lot of songs for Sesame Street.
Okay.
But she did a wonderful album called Put the Needle on the Record. Actually, I think that was the song.
Yeah,
she was the flow of that, and that was the first sampled song, supposedly. And Adam Yorch was the engineer on this. So my good friend, she passed away last year, unfortunately. She was one of the first disco divas, I guess. She's a bit older than me. She was a DJ at Studio 54, and the Red Parrot was her big place, if you know of that place.
Yep.
And so she did that for years. And there's just these weird connections. She's a juggler, or was a juggler. And I got to tell you, through juggling, I have met so many odd people that are wonderful.
I'm so glad I asked about the Beastie. I actually am a fan. I'm sorry that Adam was unkind to you.
Yeah, when they said they named a block across from him across from the school that he lived near after him, I was terrified it was the block that was across the school we went to, but no, it was on the other side of Brooklyn.
Okay, right on.
I was more of a Ramones fan.
Oh, I love the Ramones too. I think you can be both.
And I also got to know, at different points in my life, Dee Dee, Tommy, and Mark.
Really? That's incredible. That era in Brooklyn and New York and stuff, some amazing bands came out. I'm sure that you have some crazy stories.
I got to say, when you have a friend who looks like a refrigerator with feet growing up, the boyfriend of one of your best friends, and he was the bouncer because 18 was the drinking age back then, he wanted somebody to sit with his girlfriend. That could have been me at times. And I didn't necessarily see the greatest shows, but I got to see Quiet Riot open for Crocus. We're not talking about a legendary headliners.
Right.
Here, but to the credit, that was when Quiet Riot was doing their own music, which nobody remembers.
Yeah. Oh gosh, what was their huge?
Come On, Feel the Noise.
Come On, Feel the Noise.
But that was a cover.
Was it? I didn't know that. Who do you know?
Oh God, I knew 30 years ago. I didn't know.
Okay, sorry for putting you on the spot on that. So that's fascinating. And was your dad in the picture you growing up?
Oh yeah, my dad and mom are still together. They're in Orlando. They're going to move up here next year, I hope.
Okay.
So we'll see. They keep pushing it off.
And what did your dad do for a living?
My dad was a publisher. My mother worked for admissions at NYU, and my father is a very good pianist. We grew up with a 6-foot concert Steinway in our living room, that sort of stuff. So I did have piano lessons, but I have the rhythm of a typist, not of a musician.
Yeah, my dad's a Hall of Fame bluegrass musician, and I tell people I know how to play the guitar, but I'm not a musician, which you probably...
I was very good at getting the notes right. I became a very fast typist, and I never got carpal tunnel because Mrs. Stern, my piano teacher, my piano teacher was named Mrs. Stern, taught me how to hold my hands properly so everything was in a straight line. And when I typed...
Did she use a ruler?
Yes, actually, she did. It wasn't a ruler, it was a conductor's baton, but whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Close
Still
enough.
hurts.
More startling than hurts,
but
I didn't really like it. I liked my previous teacher better. But to this day, I can type at a ridiculous speed. I've slowed down dramatically. I'm only at about 114 words a minute now.
Okay.
And I still don't have carpal tunnel.
Very good. How did you get to Tallahassee?
My father's business moved to Orlando when I was in high school. And I spent the last 2 years of high school in Orlando, which I've got to say was a bit of a culture shock. And it also separated me because in Brooklyn, 9th grade was often done in junior high school. 10th, 11th, and 12th was in high school.
Okay.
So I did one school for 9th, a different school for 10th, and a third school for 11th and 12th.
Wow.
And I ended up having in-state tuition. Can you say that?
Yeah.
This was actually my backup school. The paperwork to Boston U got messed up.
Okay.
But I fell in love with the city, and I've stayed ever since.
And so you went to FSU, and what did you study? And
I started as an engineering major.
Okay.
Going into college, I was a very good programmer already, and I thought engineering was more interesting, and I wouldn't have to sit in front of monitors all day. I was wrong about that, but eventually I changed majors and graduated with a degree in art history that I see as more connected than other people because they're all about seeing patterns and how things link together. And even though they're different types of patterns, they're the same thing. It's all about solving a mystery. Writing a program is figuring out a puzzle. Engineering a bridge is figuring out a puzzle so all the forces balance. Right. And art history is figuring out a puzzle of history to see how everything influenced each other.
Interesting perspective.
My mother was also an artist, and she ended up after NYU becoming a professional botanical illustrator. So I grew up in a household not only with lots of art going on, we had a kiln in the basement. We had things like this. My father had a workshop with a wood shop, and a pretty good one. So I learned how to use tools.
You had a makerspace.
I had a makerspace when no one else had a makerspace.
Yeah.
And I actually have one now that is so ridiculous it's better than the makerspaces in town.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. So what was your path out? Like you're an alumni of FSU, you graduate from FSU. Were you doing anything entrepreneurial while you were a college student? Take us on the path to Lofty Pursuits.
Lofty Pursuits grew out of another business, and technically they're still the same business. So in 1986, I met a friend here in college, John Lyons, he's still here, and we both were jugglers. I learned how to juggle in high school. Actually, I learned how to juggle in high school in Brooklyn. got to Orlando, didn't have anyone that I knew, so I became pretty good at juggling.
Did FSU have the circus?
Yeah, but
at that
but
time?
the circus is about performing. I wasn't a performer. I was a juggler.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the
unpack that for me.
patterns. I enjoyed how to squeeze another one, and I enjoyed the reflex tricks.
Okay.
It's the same reason I like typing fast. It's cool. But I don't really like an audience necessarily. So John was the same way. We had a juggling club. The juggling club is still going on every week here in Tallahassee. It's at Cascades Park mostly. And I started building juggling equipment, and John thought this was a good idea because I couldn't afford. Professional props are expensive. Right. And we started making a line of props under the name Gravity Specific. Okay. And we did this for 2 years, paying our way to go to juggling conventions. And then he graduated, wanted to move down to Orlando, and wanted the business for himself and bought me out. Okay. We came to an agreement, and I started making props that we didn't make before, specifically high-end juggling torches, because I could play some thermodynamics games from what I learned from engineering school, and they became very popular. And about 2 years later, he closed the business and he officially gave it back to me, the entire product line. So I continued that. And that mail order business and face-to-face at juggling conventions continued until 2010.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I consider Lofty Pursuits opening in 93, but that's because that's when I quit my day job. All the other times, I didn't have a day job. So we ended up building juggling equipment, shipping it, and then the market changed at a certain point. This was after 93. So in 93, I opened the storefront because I got into yo-yos as well. We expanded the line by selling yo-yos. As the greatest yo-yo player of his generation, Dale Oliver once asked me, he said, "You got 15 yo-yos in this catalog. Do you think you can sell all of those?" Eventually, I had 300 yo-yos in the catalog at the time. I basically took over the world yo-yo competition that was about to collapse after year 5 or 6, and I ran that for 14 years, getting it up to the point that there was almost 1,000 people in attendance a year. It's still going on. It was just held in, I think, Europe. I'm pretty sure it was in Prague, and I'm not really active with it anymore. And I learned marketing through the yo-yo competitions, but that became a big part of the business. And then the business shifted again. I got out of juggling mostly and almost entirely because Eastern Europe, the Iron Curtain fell, and cheap props came in from Eastern Europe that I couldn't compete with. Okay. The yo-yos changed with the internet because I had one of the first businesses on the World Wide Web. We date back to the 88 or 89 with a website. Actually, we predate the website, and I'm not sure where it is. We started with something called a finger server. You could type in at a command line finger email address, and it would give you back some text. And I set up my catalog so you could finger my company email, get back a page of the catalog with instructions to figure dummy email accounts and get more pages of the catalog back. I then had a Gopher server, and then I had one of the first e-commerce sites where, this is before anyone did encryption, I would accept credit cards and hand key them in, and eventually I got a T1 line dropped to my living room, and I wrote some code. I became certified to write credit card processing code, and this 386 would get the order, would dial out through an acoustic modem to process credit cards, come back with a response, and give you a response. There was no technology.
Yeah, let me pause you really quick for our students. A 386 is a very early IBM type PC.
It's a variant on the Dorito. A Dorito is a very slow chip.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So you threw out 386.
So
and yes, we had to actually call a site and you would hear a modem actually connect.
They wouldn't. They would call this computer that was sitting in my living and handle about 2 users at a time. Okay. And then when you place the order, a phone line connected to the computer, because it was coming in through an internet connector, would actually have to dial through a phone line, would place the order, would place the credit card, run it, and then bring it back. And then better, because I was shipping from a different location, this was in my house, the computer would then dial the phone again to a fax machine at the location we were shipping and send the order by fax, because we only owned one computer and we had no way to download the email at the other location.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So I did a lot of low-level coding back in the day.
Yeah. No, it sounds like it. So give us a high-level view of Lofty Pursuits. What do you do? What makes you unique? And when you started and all that good stuff.
Lofty Pursuits is a vertically integrated business where we go from manufacturing to delivery in different cases. Most people don't think of a restaurant as a manufacturing space, but think about it. It's manufacturing something with a shelf life measured in minutes. Our ice cream is a shelf life measured in weeks in your freezer. And Our hard candy is a shelf life measured in months or years. We also make things that have longer shelf lives, like we produce our own packaging and our own print shop. And we have a full machine shop and a cabinet shop to maintain the equipment and to build things that we sell. So for instance, yesterday we were producing our own t-shirts in-house, and we're cutting out the middleman. So we're definitely an oddball vertical manufacturing firm where we go directly to the consumer. Back in the juggling days, we used to wholesale, but I got rid of that after a while. I discovered I was very good at making things, very good at customer service, and absolutely the worst bill collector on the planet.
Okay.
And I decided to fire all my wholesale clients. And I knew this would drive me out of business. And my sales dropped by 60%. And after a couple of months, I'm looking at the books and going, but my profits are up by 20%. And it was like my business grew by 20%, but that 20% made me so much more money. It offset the lower wholesale profits. It's like I've never looked back.
Nice. Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but I'm the founder of Red Eye Coffee here in town. I sold it years ago, and know how small the margins are in the restaurant business and things like that.
You may be able to help me. I was just down at the Coffee Expo in Orlando 2 weeks ago, looking at roasters. Those coffee prices have gone up so much. It's costing me $15 a pound for coffee, but I can get the green beans at $7 a pound. And when I did the calculations on a small 3-pound roaster, which would let the thing roast a good number of hours during the day, we go through about 40 to 50 pounds of coffee a week. I was looking at this and going, the place will smell great. We'd have our own coffee that no one else would have, and it would cut our costs in half. All the equipment would pay for itself in 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I learned in the coffee business, actually, like a coffee shop like Red Eye, having a brick and mortar is a great kind of marketing tool and things like that. But the real money, which Ben from Lucky Goat figured out, was in distribution and getting your coffee put all over the place.
It can be, but each one of those things are smaller, and he scaled it well. But I'm still convinced a large percent of his business is maintenance of coffee machines.
Yeah. Oh, that definitely
and
is
I
how
buy
he
syrups
started.
off them. I saw them at the show. They were doing great.
Yeah, they're
what we
phenomenal.
have right now in the shop, and I'm probably going to keep them. But the answer is, what can we do to create a product that isn't the same? One of the things I've seen with Lucky Goat is when I started carrying Lucky Goat, we were one of the first few restaurants that have it. Now everybody has it. How can you differentiate yourself as a business if you're selling the same product as everyone else?
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Lucky Goat was this really exclusive brand, and then they did such a good job in distribution that the uniqueness of it.
But it's like Macintosh computers. They may be leaving me behind, but it might be good for them. Our goals are different. Now, my goal is to make Lofty Pursuits a unique environment. I constantly hate going to other cities and going, let's go to the Applebee's. Because why do I want to go to another city and taste the same thing? I want to taste the city, and that's what Lofty Pursuits is about. We work with local farmers for the bacon. We work for local farmers with the grits. We deal with local honey. We have 20 or 30 products that make our stuff taste different that are our stuff. Our shrimp and grits are using a Tallahassee sauce, not a sauce from New Orleans, not a sauce from the Carolinas. It's different, but it's good.
Yeah, and the new owner of Red Eye really leaned into local and offered all sorts of locally produced kind of things.
And of course, I'd be doing something different with the coffee. He needs to have a universal coffee, something you can put in an espresso machine, make a latte out of. We only do drip coffee.
Okay.
Most people at home only do drip coffee.
That's true.
If we were to make coffee, we're just going to make drip coffee. Coffee geared and engineered for dripping.
Yeah.
We make candy for specific tasks. Freeze-dried candy everywhere, but our freeze-dried candy, we engineered a candy to be freeze-dried. We're not using Jolly Ranchers. We're not using Skittles. We're not having the problems with those. We actually designed a hard candy specifically to be freeze-dried.
I want to circle back around to something you said about the taste of a city, essentially, is what you said, a unique taste to the city. And one of the things that I think we lost for a while, maybe in the 80s and 90s before technology, was cities became very monochromatic, right? Like you said, Applebee's, you basically you had all these things.
It was the shopping mall that did it, where every shopping mall had the same restaurant. It wasn't
hot dog
at
on
one
a stick,
point, but
Orange Julius, all that kind.
Yeah, but they also had, each one had a Gap, I can't even remember the name of the stores anymore, do you?
No.
But they
all
had
the exact same
You go
thing.
into any mall, it's the same mall. That's why certain malls that have differences, like the Millennium Mall in Orlando, people go out of their way on an international basis. And it's why malls lost their edge and is falling apart, because why do you need to do this? And if it's all identical, then why don't you go mail order and save money?
Yeah. And that's one thing that I think technology, a lot of people don't think about, but Google and Yelp and everything actually empowered the consumer to find these local places where before you used to have to ask the person.
See, it goes the other way too. So when I was selling yo-yos, the reason I got out was I started selling yo-yos on Amazon. It took me a while to realize what the problem was. The problem was they didn't sell the yo-yos I shipped. They sold a yo-yo that was representative of my yo-yo. If it was a Dunkin' Imperial, they did ship a Dunkin' Imperial, but it might not have been the one I shipped. It was one with the same barcode. So what they set up is a situation where instead of being the best customer service, the best catalog, making sure the stuff was in good condition, they set it up so that now it's an auction house where the consumer isn't bidding like eBay. It's the other end. The retailer is bidding to make the least amount of money. And there's always somebody willing to do this. So especially around 2008 when I got out of the yo-yos were, people had lost their job. It was the savings and loan downfall. And they started a business on their own out of their garage. And their kid liked yo-yos. They started yo-yos. And for 6 months, they sold yo-yos and they kept growing. And they confused cash flow with profit. So as long as their sales went up, they had money. But the moment they hit that plateau, which every business does, they collapsed. And so I had 6 months where I didn't have good business. Then business came back. And then the next person came. And I had 6 months of no business. It was like, I don't want to market on hype. I don't want to not make money. And I moved on to something else. And I realized that at that point, my retail store, which I guess I didn't tell you this, the reason I opened it up is most of the yo-yo manufacturers wouldn't sell to you unless you had a retail store. So I had a 500 square foot retail store at Lake Ella whose sole purpose was to not lose money and allow me to sell yo-yos online.
Interesting.
But I really thought about this a long time. I realized that I could make a profit on retail if I gave people a compelling reason to shop retail. And that's why I put the soda fountain in. And then I wanted a third leg of the business. I wanted a show that they could show off the city with, because I feel that's important. And that show was, I looked at children's book reading, I looked at live music, and then realized live music is very derisive. You like the Beastie Boys. I'm not exactly the biggest fan, but I will say I have a negative around my neck.
Yeah.
And I just went, I can give them a compelling reason to shop. And I found this guy who was making candy. He showed up at a yo-yo contest. His brother was making artisanal yo-yo strings. Work with me. That's actually a profitable business.
Okay.
And more profitable than yo-yos because they're manufacturing and selling it direct to the consumer. And I hired him because he had a scholarship to FAMU, believe it or not. Okay. But it was just for tuition. He had no way to live. He had no way to move. Got him up here. He worked for me for 2 years until he graduated with his business degree. He now lives in Canada. I hear, I've lost track of him. But in the process, I apprenticed to him and learned how to make this very unique hard candy that we're known for.
Ah, interesting. So what year did you officially launch Lofty Pursuits?
1993. September 17th, 1993.
That's incredible.
Or that's the day I quit my day job. It actually opened 2 weeks earlier. And then I went, I can't keep this job. I gave him 2 weeks notice immediately. And
yeah. So your business,
34 years.
I was doing the math.
But
Thank you.
The juggling business started in 86. You get to do that math. 40-something?
Yeah.
And it's technically the same business. It's just changed. And the customers haven't noticed because your customers change in every 5 years. And if you don't change with them, they leave you behind.
Let's talk a little bit about change, because it's very unusual that a business lasts beyond a year. I mean,
I think that's because people look at businesses the wrong way.
Okay, so I want to hear your thoughts on that, and then I want to definitely hear your thoughts on why you think that Lofty Pursuits has been able to really transcend radical change here in Tallahassee in the business climate.
I will say that I just came back from a celebration I went to in Jeffersonville, Indiana, for a friend of mine's candy shop called Shimp's Confectionery. They're 134 years old now. And they were passing on to the fifth owner. And I had to go there for the party because Warren helped me a lot. I'm sorry, could you rephrase your question? I just went into a story.
Yeah, I would just want your perspective on just why you think so many businesses go out of business, and the second part of that question was over 30 years, Tallahassee has radically changed in demographic and the business culture, and you've been one of the constants for over 30 years. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on why you think you were able to do that.
There's so many answers to that. The big one is most people are thinking about tomorrow, and I'm thinking about 6 years from now or 10.
Okay.
I constantly see, I was recommended a business advisor to go talk to about just business planning. My CPA really wanted me to do it, and he went through all these lists of things, 6 big areas. 4 of them I had done. The other one was analyze insurance, and the last one was wills. I can do that on my own. But the big one he was really worried about is he said, we're going to put together a 5-year plan. This is really difficult. And I just reached in my bag and pulled out the 20-year plan.
Okay.
5 years isn't enough. Where are you going to be? You don't have to get there. You just have to have a direction. It's like a shark. If you don't keep moving. What people seem to miss is the purpose of a goal. A goal is not necessarily to be there. There's a Buddhist philosophy called either Wu Wei or Wei Wu, and I'm always confused because when I was learning this, one of those 2 words was the name of the Chinese ambassador to the UN, and the other is the philosophy.
Okay.
So I know I'm going to get this wrong, and I apologize to the listeners, but its big statement was action by non-action, which is a terrible translation. It's easier to divert a river than to stop it. It's easier to meld something than to tear it down and build it again. If you head towards a goal, and there's another goal, it's probably in the same direction. Don't worry about hitting that goal. Change directions. Just keep on moving. Your goal is not the target. Your goal is now, but the target has to be there. And when people put the target and the goal at the same time, it's then what? It's somebody becoming a high school football star, and then their life is over because this is the goal they had. They have no other goal, and they drink beer for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So it's being flexible. I have a complex example, but a good one, how I dealt with COVID.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
So first of all, I have a philosophy that I think I spend about 10% of my time learning something new each week.
Okay.
And on the way over here, I went to the Shoreline event. Shoreline is a wholesaler of flooring and drainage products in town, and they had all their manufacturers out with tents showing off what they do. I learned something about waterproof backer board, and I learned something about handles for trowels. In chocolate making, you use a lot of trowels.
Okay.
But I hate the handles.
Okay.
I found a company that sells the handles separate from the trowels. I can't use the plaster trowels. They're not food safe.
Right.
But I think I can get the 2 to work together. This is something I learned. Last week, I learned something about chocolate storage, and I learned something about how to keep a machine on overnight for chocolate making. I believe in constant learning, and I've already lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Where was it going? I remember COVID. So I read about 4 newspapers a week, not every day, 5, that are international and in English. Mm-hmm. The best one of them all, and it's not right now, it was better back then, is the South China Morning Post. It's in English. It's about the same level as the Wall Street Journal or maybe the Washington Post. And I heard about this disease, and I knew a couple of things. I knew it was happening in Wuhan. I knew that Wuhan had 1 million flights a day to Italy and was a toy center of the country. One of the 2, it's Shenzhen. And I immediately went, oh, God, this is a week before Chinese New Year. This is going to be terrible. So I started actions immediately. The first thing I did is, as they closed things down in China, is I called my friends who lived there and found out what other restaurants did, because I thought I could copy them. I found out what was going on with spread just by reading it, but that's not where it is. I immediately went to the archives. My wife works here at FSU. She's a librarian, so I was able to borrow her account and look at old newspapers. And among other things, I started looking at how businesses transitioned through past pandemics, specifically the 1918 one. And I don't see why people didn't talk about it more, because in 2018, everybody and their brother wrote a doctoral thesis on the subject. So I started reading those, and I started looking at newspapers and seeing restaurant closures during and after the pandemic and marketing going up to it. And the number one thing I showed is, if you wanted to stay in business, you market safety. I don't care what your personal opinion is of this. My personal opinion was do safety. But from a business standpoint and metrics, I was able to show this. So I immediately started doing what China did, which they did it 8 weeks before us here. Everybody thought I was a leader in town. I guess I was, because I was bringing the information here. But it's one of the truisms of marketing. If you do it right, people think you're leading. What you're actually doing is running behind them and pretending you're in front.
Okay.
And during this time, my friends and colleagues said, this will last 2 weeks. And I'm going, statistically, no. So I was fixing up an old truck in my backyard because I knew I'd have to do delivery. I got delivery software set up. I had a tent, but I ordered sides for the tent so I could build a drive-through in front of my business. I designed things so that you could order stuff at home. I was a partner that helped manage Wakulla Springs. I did the gift shop, so I still had accounts with hotel supply places. I started bringing in things people might need, ranging from 3 packs of laundry tablets to tampons so that we could deliver it to them with our new delivery system. I went, people aren't going to get out. I started training the employees on how to do this. I got hats made. I got little signs to put on the top of the cars. I wanted people to feel like this has always been the way for its comfort. We even did window shopping. We literally took the bookcases of jigsaw puzzles and games, put it in the window of the store with XY locations written on the shelving units so that people could look through the window and say, I want the game at A4.
Okay.
And we marketed this. And then from day one, I realized this isn't a challenge of business. This is a marketing opportunity. This is a way to expand my Evoke Set. Are you familiar with that term?
I am not.
I'm surprised being an entrepreneur professor. The Evoke Set is a psychological analysis tool of how people interact with things that they repetitively do. So the average person has an Evoke Set of 2 for restaurants, maybe 3. Have you ever been around with your wife and said, where are we going to eat? And you came up with 2 restaurants or 3 immediately, and then you're starting laughing because you can't think of a third? That's the Evoke Set. We're programmed for this. The theory is it was based on our brain's configuration to hunter-gatherer locations, but we're still there. I sat next to a gentleman who worked for a soap company, a body soap company on an airplane, and he told me they were willing to spend $500 a person to convert them to a new brand of soap because once they're converted, they'll keep them for decades. They'll make that money back. I want as many people in the Evoke Set of my restaurant as possible. Very hard to get them in, very easy to lose them.
Right.
So I spend a lot of time worrying about losing them and a big time bring them in. I'm willing to pay a lot of money to get a new regular customer.
Right.
I can demonstrate that if somebody comes in once, I got a 25% chance of getting them back. If they come in twice, I'm up to about 30%. But on time 5, I'm up to 75% chance. I want that 5th time. So when other restaurants are basically closing down and saying, we're not worried about you, and I'm saying, come and become regulars here, I got people to get into the habit, the Evoke Set, of coming to Lofty Pursuits. I lost money, or came close to losing money. I actually turned a profit in 2020, but not a big one. Statistically, it could have gone the other way. It was that close.
Yeah.
But I came out with 30% more business than when I went in.
Interesting.
So this is how I look at business. I look at business as patterns. And I acknowledge that I own the company, but the customer owns the business.
Okay.
Coca-Cola learned that the wrong way when they came out with New Coke.
Yeah.
Oh, you've read For God, Country, and Coca-Cola, haven't you? Oh, I recommend it highly if you haven't. It's a huge lesson on who owns the company. And every time I'm around, it's about respecting the customer because the customer, I've got 3rd and 4th generation customers coming to my store after all these years.
Yeah.
I'm not just responsible for my business, I'm just responsible for their happy childhood memories that they're trying to share with their own children. And that's how I look at things in the future. It's not just bring the customer today, it's bring the customer back 10 years ago. I have people driving down the interstate who visit me once a year. And that's where I think a lot of business misses things in Tallahassee because we've got this weird interstate that curves around so much. We have so many contact points. People are saying, I hear people talk to me about there's a new restaurant, a Cookout just opened, it's going to create new jobs. We only have so many stomachs. We're playing the shell game with businesses, and this is fine because businesses have to die, new ones have to come in. It's part of the evolution of business. But if we get people to stop off the interstate for 3 hours and spend $100, that's money coming from another community to our community that's never been here. And I would like that to happen more. I have a billboard on I-10. I don't know if you're aware of that. And that's actually why I started the YouTube videos. We have just shy of 600,000 subscribers on our candy YouTube channel. And we focus on the candy, not the ice cream, not the food, not the toys, because I can ship the candy mail order and the toys you can get locally, perhaps. Right. And we bring in about 5 carloads a day. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but my average, I'll call domestic customer, local customer, comes in for an ice cream cone. What's that, $4? Right. But these guys, they've never been here before. They may never come back, although they usually do when they're returning from Disney because they had such a great time. They'll spend almost 25 times that on average per person, and there's almost 3 people per car on average. So when I had my old location, I was looking out the window at I-10 because I was across the street from where I'm now, And I saw 10,000 cars a day come by, and they weren't stopping. And it took 12 years, but now they're stopping. And that's a big portion of a business on a slow day.
Yeah, no, that's a huge portion. How have you navigated building a business in a capital city where we have legislators sessions that come in and out, and then 3 major higher learning kind of centers?
I don't market to students, and I don't market to them, and I put my business in the part of town where the rich residents live. It's that simple.
Okay.
I see people wanting me to open up across from campus all the time with an ice cream store, and I keep on running the numbers and going, how am I going to do that? The students aren't here during my prime ice cream.
Right, exactly.
I want an even thing. Actually, one of the reasons that we work is each section of the store balances the other for seasonal sales. So ice cream, obviously, in the summer, candy in the winter. Breakfast in the morning is pretty even year-round, but as ice cream is failing, toy sales for gifts are coming up.
Okay.
So it's a lot about engineering different things. I had a business, one of your colleagues over in the business school going, I want to do an analysis for your store. I don't understand how it succeeds. Everything I see says it should fail. But that's because he's looking at one metric. And that's another thing I see other businesses do. They look at certain metrics but not others. It's, I don't know, playing golf with one golf club. You need a whole bunch of them. And some of it is just gut, but some of it is just watching your customers.
Do you ever worry about brand dilution and people not knowing like what Lofty Pursuits
I
is?
gave up on that years ago, and yes, I did. So when I opened the store, I was opening the store to get the yo-yos in. I went, what is this going to last 3 years? And my mother came up with the name of the Lofty Pursuits because I was selling kites and darts and boomerangs and juggling equipment and yo-yos. That's all I was selling at that. And she thought that the double entendre, Lofty Pursuits, things that fly in the air, would be great. And I went, it's 3 years. We're now 31 years after that, and I still have the name. What the heck does it mean? And originally I thought this was a brand dilution because I should say toys, breakfast, whatever is part of the name. But then I realized this has given me the freedom to do whatever I want. One of my friends joked around that said, Lofty Pursuits sooner or later will be a 1-star Michelin restaurant and an auto repair center. And I recently bought an auto repair center. That's our warehouse. It's not an auto repair center, but I bought a building that an auto repair center was in. I don't know. I think a lot of it is knowing your own skills. People keep on playing to somebody else's strengths. Play to your own. Mm-hmm. My strength is I can build anything. My strength is not accounting. I firm that out. And it's gotten me into trouble because I'm not good at it. My skills are I can explain things and I can talk to people and I can write. I can program, but I can't learn a foreign language. I can't do certain tasks to certain complexities. I have to divide them into different parts. But I can also see patterns like I think other people can't see. And I can see how they jigsaw together. And it doesn't bother me that other people don't. And I think my greatest strength is I have very little self-image. So I don't care what you call me. I don't care what's out there. I don't care. I don't look at my competition and go, I should be doing that. I look at where this fits and how can I serve my customer in such a way that could passively bring them back. Because I hate people cold calling me or shoving things down my throat or telling me what I want. I know what I want. I even have an example for that. I just built a wrapping paper station in my store. I actually saw one of these in Germany. It's not original, but it's a cabinet with 3 rolls of wrapping paper on top of it, a bar with a whole bunch of ribbon, 2 from tags, Scotch tape, and scissors. And when I saw that, it clicked. A good portion of the toy business, and this is actually one of the reasons I moved and changed the focus of the business, is I was doing well selling toys. And people bought toys in lots of times a year. They bought it at Christmas for their kids, but at a certain age range, say 6 to 12 elementary school, they have a birthday party almost every weekend for one of their kids' friends, and they have to go out and buy it.
Right.
With Target getting a toy section in Walmart, which didn't really exist well before this point, people were going, instead of going, let's go to Lofty, here's $20, buy something. We're in Walmart, let's go and buy something. So how did I do this? I brought the ice cream in, and now brought people in every week. So now it was convenient. We're here anyway. You got the party on Saturday, let's get something while we are here. And then I did, and most recently, this wrapping paper station, which is working, is you can come to Lofty Pursuits. You don't have to go somewhere else for the wrapping paper. We're not even going to charge you for it. We just are happy that you're here. Come on in, buy your present here, and on the way out, wrap it on the way to your party. You don't have to take any time to think otherwise. We can make it as simple as possible. And put it next to the door so you'd see it on the way out and you'd come to this conclusion. I'm not yelling, this is what it's about. But I'm giving something to the customer to make their life easier, to bring them back. That's the type of positive marketing that I don't see a lot of anymore.
Yeah, I tell my students all the time that make doing business with you as easy as possible.
On the first day I opened in 93, an old man walked into the store. He must have been in his 80s. I wish I knew his name. I talk about him constantly. That was 34 years ago. He's probably not with us anymore. He gave me a couple of bits of business advice, and I remember them all. One, he told me, if you don't serve your customers, somebody else will.
True.
Number two, he said, don't be afraid to make money, because if you go out of business, you no longer serve your customers. He had a much longer explanation.
Okay.
He also told me some other things that were just like, it took me years to figure out. But with those two statements, you get to figure out what it is. I try to distinguish myself from other businesses. I don't want to do the same thing as them, because why would I want to set up things where I'm just a location? You look at the analysis of most ice cream stores, they have a 1.5-mile drive range, tops. I have a 12-mile drive range, sometimes more. I have customers every day driving in from the coast or every week, once a week to drive in from the coast for either breakfast or ice cream, because they can't get it where they are. It's one of the things that bothers me about, I've been a member of a lot of small business groups. And every small business group harps on the things of buy local, it's good for the community. That's true. That's nice. That's not driving people to buy local. That's guilting people.
Yeah.
They should be buying local, because here's an experience you can't have anywhere else. Here's stock that's right for you. Here's something that reflexively makes you attract to the stuff. Here's someplace you like to go and makes you happy. I know what I sell. I know what I sell is toys and candy and ice cream, but I know what they're buying. They're buying happiness. They're buying joy. They're sad and they come in and they want to be happy. They're happy and they want to celebrate more. They're proud of Tallahassee and they want to show off. That's what they're buying, and I'm making sure that they come in and they see that.
I love that. You get a lot of your company gets a lot of national attention and things like that.
We've been in everything from Southern Living to the New York Times to Food and Wine magazine to the Washington Post to Entrepreneur magazine.
So are you actively so why has that been important to you and your brand, and how do you go about doing that?
There's a couple of things I do. And the silliest one is I find it fun. Not all of it's useful. When you get national press, you're going to get national business. Well, I do some mail order candy. Sometimes it helps. Don't get me wrong. But normally I can't even see a blip. But I get a good enough national press, and the local press covers it. If I do it right, send out a press release. And that local business, because now, look, we've got a local business that makes candy canes that were featured in Southern Living. That's wonderful. I can parlay national press into local press. And the local press is more valuable. Actually, the Southern Living one was amazing, because now all the rich people from Thomasville are coming down because they must have my candy canes. But that is really the only time national press has really brought a flurry of business to me.
Interesting.
I can control more with some social media, but I still see social media as being not understood by most people. Anyone who says they're an expert on it is lying to you. And the reality is you don't really get to control it. The customer does. And I'm fine with that. I'm already marketing that way. But we've created viral trends. I've been on the front page of Reddit 5 or 6 times now.
Okay.
I've been on YouTube trending before they canceled it, I think 3 times. We've had videos with 9 million views, and those did generate business. Don't get me wrong, because there's an immediacy of there's a button, order now. But a lot of this is the fact that it's all buried in jargon and people don't understand. You're old enough to know this. Do you remember the book, Guerrilla Marketing?
Yep.
What's the difference between guerrilla marketing and social media marketing?
Nothing.
Oh, better typefaces.
Yeah.
That's really it. So nothing has changed, but they're trying to convince us stuff has changed. All marketing dates back to the 1400s. I think it was Pope Gregory the something, not the one I was named after. Yes, I'm a Jewish boy named after a pope. There's a story in its own that we're not covering here. It was he's the one who defined the 7 deadly sins and the 7 noble virtues.
Okay.
And there were exceptions here. You can have directional marketing like billboard that points down to something that says, "We are here. Do you remember us?"
Yeah.
That's not this. The 7 deadly sins, I got them right here. Pride. There's a better car in a neighbor's driveway. Or here's a cool one. Let me show off. Greed, lust. I'm sure you've seen travel things. Envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. Anger is very popular right now. Unfortunately, I consider those very short-term marketing things. It might get an immediate reaction, but it doesn't last. But people forget of the 7 noble virtues that came out at the same time. Humility, charity, chastity, gratitude, temperance, patience, and diligence. And you can define these a lot of different ways because they were written in Latin and they don't translate great. But do you remember an old Coca-Cola commercial? All these kids on the hill singing.
Yeah.
I want to give the world a Coke.
Yeah.
You know the lyrics.
Yeah.
That's over 50 years old. That was a single ad that ran for 2 weeks.
Really?
50 years ago. They've replayed it a couple of times. How much money and how much effective marketing did they get off that? By just doing generosity, hope.
Yeah.
These are strong things. Obama didn't do hate. He did hope. It was the message. Why does this stick? I think it's what we want. And I see so many people. When I started doing breakfast, some of my competition in town was going, why is he doing this? He's this, and started making negative comments. And I'm going, dude, I do everything well, or I stop doing it. And I might stop doing this in 2 weeks because it's not working. It's working for now, so I'm going to continue to do it. Where can you bring joy? You come into the store and you find surprises. We have a digital scale. I took an old penny scale from the 1800s the early 1920s. The type that had a window on the top that would give you your fortune and a dial you could change. And it was missing most of the parts. I think somebody was trying to fix it. And when I bought it, the parts weren't there. It had obviously been in a barn based on the number of chicken feathers I removed. Okay. Removed all the rest of the mechanics, put in something called a load cell. You can't see this. It's all hided. That's a digital scale mechanism. Put a couple of monitors in, a Raspberry Pi and Arduino, wrote some code. And now when you get on it, it tells you your weight. But if you turn the knob, it tells you your weight on different planets. It sounds stupid, but when I was a kid at the Hayden Planetarium, they had 9 scales, one for each planet and the moon, and it would tell you your weight on it, and I went back and forth for hours at the right age. They're doing that now. Now, because I used a rotary indicator on the knob, which wasn't designed for it, the rotary indicator is having trouble. I interfaced a 21st century piece of tech with a early 20th century brass knob. It'll get fixed. If you pushed it in, you get a warp effect on the screen. And now it says on an interplanetary scale. So there's a bit of discovery and wonder. And now you can see your weight on Krypton and Vulcan and Hoth and the little Princess planet and Kronos. But Kronos is cool because Kronos they figured out a weight system for the Klingons.
Okay.
So it actually tells you your weight in the Klingon weight system.
All right.
There are all sorts of little jokes hidden there for you to discover. And this is being Gnostic, knowing more than other people. So you can go around lofty once you learn these things. You know that an egg cream doesn't contain egg or milk. You know that I have a spoon hiding on the wall in a little breakout emergency box that says in case of fire, because the ice cream's going to melt.
Yeah.
I have artistic Heimlich maneuver posters. I guess I should say choking posters. Heimlich maneuver is trademarked. And 1 is interesting, but 10 is hilarious, especially when we've hidden one from Bob's Burgers that they produced on the wall that's actually a choking instruction poster. And you go around and you start seeing Creature from the Black Lagoon paintings that I did, portraits of my employees, and it allows the store to be discovered more than once. You have to come back. You can't see it all. It's a 3-ring circus where you know you missed something.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of my favorite movies are like that you watch it once and
But why can't you do this to business? And it also brings out a point for marketing for me. You can only market through 5 senses. That's all we have, okay? So why don't people worry more about smell and touch, not just taste and visual? This is one of the problems I have with everybody saying that the cure for all things is AI marketing, and I'm going, they have pretty good text data sets, audio data sets, visual data sets. They have nothing on taste and touch, 0. And they're trying to convince me that candy flavors can be developed by a computer. They don't have the data set. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm saying it's a really good search engine with a lot of good stuff that can create you data to make a decision, but a human's intuition and guessing. Otherwise, everyone's getting the same data, and once again, you're not distinguishing yourself from another business. I've actually been letting my website age. I used to redo it every 3 or 4 years. AI coming up, I actually want people to know that it wasn't AI generated. I don't know if this is a good thing, but right now the layout's out of date. It's got all the information, you can get it fast. And it's technologically linked like other places aren't. It's like when we change a flavor, and we can do that 4 times, 5 times a day, so an employee goes to the cash register, pulls up a window, turns the old flavor off, turns the new flavor on. What it does then is it updates the screen, so we don't have to change signs or anything. It updates the Facebook page, updates the web page, and if the flavors come out in the last 3 or 4 days, it highlights it in a different color. It then generates an RSS feed that I can automatically post on Facebook, Instagram, X, whatever. Instagram doesn't do RSS feeds, but it's right now going very happily to I don't remember, Bluesky, but nobody's looking at it.
Oh, blue sky.
I don't know how to say that.
Yeah.
I could turn it on and it's automated and I don't have to do anything to make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's an informational post, which should be automated, but it also only requires one touch on a touch screen from an employee to do.
No, that's great. That's great. So I know you have a podcast. How do you use your podcast as a driver for business? Is that how you view it? Or
I use it as a reward for customers.
Okay. Unpack that for me.
Okay. There's lots of ways to market. Do you market to new customers or do you market to old customers to make them feel like they're part of the action? Like I say, you're feeding an Evoke Set. How do you maintain it? We do a jazz brunch once a month, posted online that we're doing it. It's a discovery. We're already full on Saturday. I don't need a line. I don't want a line. Once we have a line, we're not making more money. We're just annoying people.
Okay.
My goal is to have 2 free tables at every moment you come in, so we'll always have a vacancy. I don't want you to be pissed. I want to sell joy. This isn't about selling food. This is about making you come back the next time and trusting us that it'll be good to come back. So I don't know. I've just lost it again. I'm sorry.
I was wondering how you view your podcast.
Oh, my podcast is a reward. So I tell stories. The podcast I refer to the podcast as the balancing point between life, art, business, and play. And I don't really see much of a difference between these things, and a lot of people do. But if you can find that center balance, everything can be as sweet as candy, and that's really something I do. I love to build things, so I build things for the store that then act as passive marketing objects, as the kid who knows more about the scale can show the secret warp effect to his friend, show it to somebody else. We don't show it to the customers. The customers show it to each other. There are jokes in the store that the customers then know, and they come back knowing it, and they have to show it off. We have a little display of our cones, and we have a wafer cone, a sugar cone, a cake cone, and a pine cone. I can't tell you how many thousands of pictures showed up. We have our marching band. We use a marching band for marketing. We sponsor a community marching band, Lofty Pursuits. It's now a nonprofit as of this year, I'm very happy to say.
Okay.
Which means we finally can afford to insure the darn thing. And we hang the instruments on the walls. Those sousaphones are not there for show, they're there for storage. So we end up, but I want you to think about a marching band. Why do we do this? We do this partially because of the community outreach. It's fun. The mission of the nonprofit is to get music, lifelong music, because it's being creative, and that's what we're about at Lofty Pursuits. But it's also about marketing to kids, because the decision makers for ice cream, and I keep on going back to ice cream. If I want to talk about breakfast, I'm talking about retirees on weekdays. It's all different markets. But kids, I used to advertise in the Sunday Funnies, but the parents aren't buying the newspaper. Even if they're getting a digital version, they're not looking at the comics. You end up getting the kids. We used to advertise on Saturday morning cartoons. Those don't exist anymore. It's all Disney Plus, no ads. YouTube Kids, no ads. I used to advertise on the radio, but Spotify is what they're listening to, or something like it. Minimum buy-in's $10,000 a month. That doesn't make sense to me. But at Springtime Tallahassee, there can be up to 35,000 kids in the age range I need. And the best part about a marching band? Parades charge for floats because they're advertising. I don't try to advertise at the marching band. I'm just trying to play music.
Okay.
They don't charge for marching bands. So I put a few $1,000s into it. I have 60 people. 30 come out regularly, 30 are, I don't know if I should even call them part of the band. But we end up making a bunch of people happy, and they make other people happy, and they talk about Lofty Pursuits and how great it is.
No, that's great.
And that's a very subtle way that is now self-maintaining after, 15 years.
Yeah. So what is your next step for Lofty Pursuits?
Chocolate.
How do you see it evolving?
Chocolate. I have had a lot of trouble with tariffs. People keep on going, you're being affected by tariffs? And the answer is not just ingredients costs up. I can't get many of the toys that I'd like to carry. It's gotten to the point that U.S. toy manufacturers are moving overseas because of 80% they're all export businesses.
Right.
If 80% of their business, they were manufacturing in the United States and shipping 80% of their product mostly to Europe.
Okay.
Now it's expensive to ship to Europe, so they moved the manufacturing to Europe, and they're writing off the United States. That's creepy if you think about it. I used to do about 30% of my candy mail order to Europe and Canada and even Asia, and some to South America and Australia. Almost all of that's gone to zero. So I'm shifting, once again, pivoting to do this, and I'm adding chocolate. I knew that chocolate could be a really good business, especially locally. It doesn't ship as well as the hard candies. And I built another facility in our warehouse across town. It was supposed to be done 6 weeks ago. It's done now. We may not have it for Christmas, but that's really the goal. I saw this coming. So I spent the last 3 years taking classes, traveling to other candy stores, because there are two skills involved: the science of chocolate making, and then the actual practical knowledge of how do you do this without hurting your back? How do you store the stuff for actual longevity? How do you do things efficiently so that it looks good in the packaging? These are two very different skills, and the people who know one end of it don't know the other consistently. So we're starting that up. The last of the equipment arrived on Monday.
Okay.
We'll eventually do bean to bar, but we're starting with refined chocolate, and we're going to be doing a whole bunch of it out of the store. We've just started with caramel apples. I've been shipping my candy makers around the country to caramel classes and things like that. But this is a 10-year plan, and we're on year 3 of it.
Okay. Sounds good. Wrapping up, I have a couple of questions. I want to ask this fun one.
Sure.
What is one of your wildest ice cream flavors that you've ever done?
I think candy is better. We're a little conservative on the ice cream.
All right, candy.
We do some that we're making right now. I do a ham candy that's unbelievable as part of our Thanksgiving assortment.
Okay.
Because you've had candied ham, we do it in candy. We actually got a thank you letter from the vice president of Smithfield Ham's marketing saying it was so good. But we also do things like celery dressing and cranberry. We do an entire feast in candy where everyone is delicious. And that's something that's important with Lofty Pursuits. If it's not good, we don't do it. Brock's makes a candy corn Thanksgiving meal. It's terrible. But ours is yummy. But we've also done wasabi, and you'll never try it because I got to tell you, wasabi may never be destined to be a candy flavor.
All right.
But we do other things that people think are just strange, super sours and combinations of flavors. But the whole goal is to give you a taste experience, that fifth wall, the fifth sense, that brings you back to a childhood memory. We make a candy that tastes just like the old Altoids tangerine sours that your grandmother might have shared with you. Or we make a horehound, which is something else that might have brought back a childhood memory. And it's all these little touchstones. You walk into the store, you see a row of soda fountain chairs. Why? Because when you walk in, I want you to know this is a soda fountain. I want you to look at the old scoops on the wall. I want things to connect you with touchstones because I know you taste with your eyes before you taste with your mouth. You experience something and you come in, and during that first 10 seconds you come in the store, you probably have already decided whether you're going to enjoy yourself or not. And if I want you in the Evoke Set, I want you to experience that every time you walk in.
Nice. I like that. So this is totally random, but the Great Kazoo, I just remembered the Great Kazoo.
Gazoo with a G.
Gazoo. Okay, that was the Flintstone weird.
Good. Thank you. I was really wondering about
I don't know why you were talking about candy, and it just popped into my head. So for the audience, you guys probably Googled it already.
But I'm still the Grand Poobah.
Yes, you are.
Although I did for a couple of years could put bon vivant, life of the party. I don't know why they ask occupation on the tax returns. I figure if I make somebody laugh once, it's worth it.
There you go. So, Greg, I like to end the podcast always asking my guest one question. And the question is, Greg, if you could go back 35 years before you started Lofty Pursuits and you were allowed, the Great Kazoo allowed you to ask or tell yourself one thing, what is the one thing that you would tell yourself to have made your journey more successful, let's say? And you can define success however you want.
I don't really know. I'm real happy with how things go. There was people I thank. I didn't realize at the time, my father bought a house for me to live in Cala because it was cheaper. So for the first few years of the business, I was able to live basically rent-free. We had 2 tenants or 2 roommates who basically paid for all the bills and at a lower rate than other houses because we owned it. We didn't have to make money off it. We just had to cover the mortgage. Having the luxury of the potential of failure was the greatest gift my father has given me. Nice. And I've thanked him since then, but I didn't understand that at the time. The other thing might have been, don't use Lofty Pursuits as a name, but I'm beginning to realize as I go on, it's given me the flexibility of it doesn't mean anything. So Lofty Pursuits, when it changes every 5 years, nobody notices the change. We didn't do breakfast before 2016. We didn't do ice cream before 2010. We didn't do anything but yo-yos and kites before 99. Sorry, 99. People don't realize how radically different the business is because the change is slow. And they changed as well with us, which is wonderful. But having a name which doesn't tie to anything, doesn't say coffee, because if you had Red Eye Coffee and all of a sudden you started selling Lincoln Logs or toys, you couldn't bring it in. But with this, it made it more difficult for people to understand what I did at the beginning. But I think that extra work really benefited me.
Interesting.
I got to think about that more.
Yeah, but I think that's a great place to leave it. I
you.
appreciate you coming in, Greg. I know we had some parking issues, and
There are no parking
issues. Okay.
Look, I know full well how to park around campus. Pick a parallel parking spot. None of these kids know how to parallel park. It's been 30 years since it's been on the test.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset podcast powered by the Moran College of Entrepreneurship. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another amazing episode. We will see you next time.